Can you tell the jurors the nickname Little Woody, who do you know that nickname to belong to?
Kenneth Copeland.
Okay. And when you received the case file from the Atlanta Police Department, were there a number of recorded statements or interviews inside of the file?
There was.
And when you received it and as you continued to work on the case, did you review those statements?
I did.
And did you receive a statement as it relates to Kenneth Copeland from June 10th of 2015?
I did.
And can you tell the jurors, did you review it in its full?
I did.
Okay. Now, during that statement, does Mr. Copeland provide his phone number as well as the phone number for his girlfriend?
I believe so, yes.
And can you tell the jurors what is Mr. Copeland's girlfriend's name?
Deshawn Quarterman.
Okay. And after receiving through the interview as well as other means through your investigation, did you request the phone records and receive them for Kenneth Copeland?
Well, by request, I didn't order his phone records. Someone with the Atlanta Police Department did, but I did review them.
Okay. And is it something that you reviewed as a part of this case?
Yes.
Now, can you tell the jury what was the phone number in the records that were related to the handset that was associated with Kenneth Copeland?
What was Kenneth Copeland's phone number?
Correct.
678-278-5991.
Okay. And after listening to the June 10th of 2015 statement with Mr. Copeland.
Hang on just a second. I know that stand isn't great, but I think the jurors in the back row are having a hard time seeing that.
Mr. Sprinkel, while Mr. Atkins is putting up the board, can you tell the jurors, did you review Mr. Copeland's phone records in light of the statement from June 10th of 2015 that you listened to?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, when did, activity on Mr. Copeland's phone or through his phone records, when did it begin in the early evening of June 10th of 2015?
Well, I guess it would depend on what you define as early evening. For me, I started inspecting the records as at 6:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, was that an incoming or outgoing call?
His girlfriend, Deshawn Quarterman, called him at 6:20.
Okay. And did Mr. Copeland?
Simply, who called? I understand the handset.
Sustained.
Okay. Did the handset of Mr. Copeland's girlfriend call the handset related or associated with Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
And did Mr. Copeland's telephone, the number that was associated with him, did he answer?
He did not at 6:20 p.m.
Okay. Can you tell the jurors when was the next, incoming or outgoing call that Mr. Copeland made and was connected or answered?
Well, his brother called him at 6:27 p.m.
Did the handset related to Mr. Copeland's brother call the handset related to Kenneth Copeland?
Yes.
Okay. And did Mr. Copeland's handset or telephone that's associated with him, did he pick up?
Well, it appears that he did. It was a 24-second conversation.
Okay. And do you recall during the interview that Mr. Copeland did on June 10th of 2015 what he described as it related to his activity in the early evening?
He said that he was at his house at 178 Maury Avenue. He'd been taking a midday nap at the time.
Okay. And did he indicate during that interview that when he, woke up he called the handset that was associated with his girlfriend, Miss Quarterman.
He did.
And is that consistent with what the cell phone records, the call logs for the handset, Mr. Copeland, that you reviewed?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'm going to object to this.
My response would be Mr. Burney, or Agent Burney, as he testified, he didn't review any sort of statements, so he was not in a position to talk about the consistency of the statement as it relates to the records, which was the necessity. The whole reason we needed to call Mr. Sprinkel back was due to that unfortunate scheduling issue.
All right, I'm going to,
And Your Honor, I believe those would be juror issues. I don't believe it's Mr. Sprinkle's place to determine what is consistent and what's not.
Well, I'd also say this goes to Mr. Copeland was impeached on multiple occasions by multiple parties before this court and this jury, and this is prior consistent statements and activity as it relates to his impeachment.
I'm going to overrule the objection.
You can answer the question. Let me ask it again.
Yes.
What Mr. Copeland, I guess, described during his interview as it relates to waking up and his phone activity to the detectives on June 10th of 2015, is that consistent with the activity that you reviewed and you've described here today as it relates to the handset of Mr. Copeland and his call log detail records?
We called the handset associated with Deshaun Quarterman at 6:58 p.m., so that was consistent with him talking about what he did after his midday nap.
Okay. And can you tell the jurors, did you also, as a part of your investigation, plot different calls as it related to the call detail records that you received with Mr. Copeland?
I did.
Okay. If you also had an opportunity to review similar, I guess, plotting of Special Agent Burney?
I did.
Okay. Now, during the interview that day on June 10th of 2015, do you recall where Mr. Copeland described, I guess, he went next as it relates to his activities that night?
He went to the Green Store, which is, I believe, at 322 Glen Street. That's what he said, yeah.
And in your review of Mr. Copeland's records, can you tell the jurors, were his records consistent with him going to the Green Store shortly after he called the handset related to or associated with Ms. Quarterman?
Your Honor, I think that this is out of Mr. Sprinkle's expertise, and these are questions for Agent Burney, which have been asked.
Okay, so if that may be true, if I'm understanding what it is that Mr. Sprinkle's testifying to.
I can lay a foundation.
Okay.
Mr. Sprinkle, do you utilize or do you review call detail records on a regular basis as a part of your job responsibilities and duties with the District Attorney's Office?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors how often do you do that?
Multiple times a week. I don't want to go so far as to say every day. I'm sure there's days that I haven't, but it's thousands upon thousands of times, thousands of sets of phone record, at least over 1,500 sets of phone records, and that's a conservative estimate. So, yeah, I look at phone records all the time and have been doing so since 2012.
And in the phone records, or in many of the phone records or the call detail records that you receive, do they have longitude, latitude, or cell site location data related to the different phone calls within the call detail records?
Yes, depending on the type of phone logs, call detail records that I have or that they are, yes, they will sometimes have cell site location information. And
can you tell the jurors, as a part of your job responsibilities and duties with the District Attorney's Office, how often do you map or plot different calls as it relates to the cell site location data contained within the call detail records?
All the time.
Another objection on foundation for this part of the testimony as it relates to mapping. Foundations for establishing accountability.
As it relates to what, I really need y'all to use the mics. All right, so,
I'm laying the foundation.
okay, he's in the midst of it.
So how often do you plot and map different call detail records, cell site location data?
Very, very often. Maybe not on every single case, but on many, many, many cases. How often? I would say at least once a week. Again, that's a very, very conservative estimate, but most cases have cell phone records, and I will generally, if there are cell phone records, want to look at those to make sure that the data is what we believe it to be.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors a little bit about your experience in the sense of how many years have you been utilizing cell site location information to map or plot different sets of phone records and specific phone calls within different sets of records?
Since 2012.
Okay, so roughly how many years? We're looking at what, over 10?
Yes.
And within those 10 years, can you tell the jurors how many sets of phone records do you believe that you have mapped or plotted cell site location information related to call detail records?
That would be hundreds. I don't keep a tally, but the number of cases that I deal with a year since that time, it would just be in the hundreds. A lot of cases.
Okay, and in the cases that you have done what you just described, do you often work in tandem or in conjunction with different members of law enforcement, such as the Atlanta Police Department or other agencies within Fulton County?
Yes.
Okay, and have there been times that you also have worked with members of the FBI or different task forces as it relates to mapping and plotting call detail records?
Maybe like consulted with. Work would imply that I was like part of the team, or with respect to the FBI, that is. No, I mean, I've consulted with them.
Okay, so as it relates to this case, did you utilize cell site location information to map different calls for Kenneth Copeland after you listened to his recorded statement on June 10th of 2015?
I did.
And can you tell the jurors, as it relates to the mapping or the plotting that you did for Mr. Copeland's records, were they consistent at times with being near the Green store?
Yes.
Again, Your Honor, I'm going to object to cumulative. Agent Burney has already testified to these matters.
And my response is these questions will be brief, but again, Mr. Sprinkel's analysis is related to the statement that Mr. Copeland was impeached with during his testimony for the statement he gave on June 10th of 2015.
All right, and can you clarify whether whatever this analysis is based on Mr. Sprinkel's own plotting or whatever Mr. Burney had already done?
Yes. The plotting that I've been talking to you about as it relates to Mr. Copeland is this plotting or mapping that you did yourself.
Yes.
And upon doing the plotting or mapping yourself with the cell site location information, well, let's start with, can you tell the jurors what information, I guess, are you inputting or using in order to get specific plots for specific calls?
So basically what I do is I'll have the phone records. I'll have a set of phone records, and there will be some cell site location information that's in the same row as the date and time and the phone number's called, and I'll use Google Earth. Sometimes some phone records are real easy. If they're from AT&T or T-Mobile, they'll just have the latitude and longitude of the tower actually in the records. Other phone companies, like Sprint at the time, or Verizon, they just put some sort of number that's unique to them. Like, it's a number that identifies the tower for them. It will be like 14732 or something. That's by no means a lot. That was just a number I just came up with out of nowhere. But it will be some sort of number, and I'll have to cross-reference another spreadsheet where that spreadsheet will have the latitude and longitude. But long story short, though, I just take the latitude and longitude of the tower, I put it into Google Earth, and then I use a graphic plugin in Google Earth to create what I call a pie slice that represents the approximate area of coverage, or basically just points in the direction of the antenna or the azimuth of the tower.
Okay, so that was a long story.
Oh.
So can you tell the jurors, in your review of the phone records, what time, if any, was Mr. Copeland's handset in the area of the green store?
So his handset was consistent with was utilizing a tower that was consistent with it being in the area of the green store between 7:26 and 7:27 p.m.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors, through your review of Mr. Copeland's June 10th statement, did, I guess, the location, the McDonald's off of Cleveland Avenue, become a point of interest that was related to the investigation you were doing?
Yes.
And can you tell the jurors, in your review of did you review Mr. Copeland's call detail records and the cell site location information in regards to that interest point?
I did.
And can you tell the jurors, in your review, what time, if any, Mr. Copeland was in the area of, or consistent with being in the area of, the McDonald's off of Cleveland Avenue?
All right, so like I testified previously, his phone gets to the area or uses a tower in the area of the green store from 7:26, 7:27 p.m. It remained in that general area or the tower until about 7:47. And then 7:49, it pinged off the tower that serviced the general area of the McDonald's at Old Hateville and Cleveland Avenue.
And you said 7:49?
That's correct.
As you continue to review the records, can you tell the jurors, after continuing to listen to Mr. Copeland's June 10th statement, did the Sky House located in Midtown become a point of interest relevant to the investigation that you were doing?
The Sky House condominiums at 1080 West Peachtree Street, yes.
Okay, and can you tell the jurors why or how did that location become a point of interest relevant to your investigation?
It was the location, or a location, that Jeffrey Williams resided.
Okay. And in the time that you were reviewing the records related to Mr. Copeland and reviewing the statement, can you tell the jurors at any point did Mr. Copeland reference during his statement that he communicated with a handset that would be associated with Mr. Garlington?
He did.
And can you tell the jurors, was that something that you attempted to locate within the call detail records of Mr. Copeland as you reviewed them?
I did. I didn't find a number that I could conclude was Mr. Garlington's, though if I remember correctly, I also said he contacted him via FaceTime, so I wouldn't be able to see those calls and call detail records anyway.
Okay, and that's something you talked about and mentioned as to why previously when you testified before this court and the jury, right?
I don't recall if I said that or not.
Okay. Now, can you tell the jurors, I guess, what you were able to determine, if anything, as it related to the call detail records being consistent with Mr. Copeland's handset being in the area of Sky House Midtown?
It was later that evening. His handset, from what I recall, from what I remember, it was after 11 p.m. when his handset utilized a tower that was near the Sky House, so it did utilize a tower at some point that serviced the area of the Sky House.
And can you tell the jurors, the Sky House Midtown, how was that building, I guess, related to or relevant to the investigation that you were doing as you continued to review the statement of Mr. Copeland and other materials that you received from the Atlanta Police Department?
That was the location that was said to be where Mr. Copeland and others converged later that evening on January 10th, 2015.